This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Radar, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with Tom Pelphrey about his role in Ozark. How are you, Tom?
Good, good. How you doing?
Good, good. I'm excited that we're here at this moment now. I wish it had happened for season three because I think that was really this incredible body of work. But I'm really glad that you had the chance to come back, even just for a little bit.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was really glad I got a chance to come back too. This is pretty cool.
I had this moment watching the beginning of that episode in season four where I was like, wait a minute, did we miss something? Is something like, is it not actually what we thought that happened? And maybe, Ben is still alive or something like that. But then I said, no, Ozark is not that kind of show. When someone dies on Ozark, they're really, really dead.
I know Ozark is not a fairy tale ending show.
Well, I should have said, if anybody's watching, please watch all of Ozark before you watch this interview. But what did you know about the length and direction of your arc when you first signed on to the show?
I mean, Chris Mundy had pulled me aside before we started filming and told me that, Ben had bipolar and that he would choose to go off his medication around halfway through the season and that it would end pretty badly. He didn't really give me specifics, and I don't know how much was even known specifically at that time, but it did set me up with like a good idea of like kind of where the character started and certainly where he would end, which was really, just advantageous. It just helps you do your job kind of when you understand at least the starting point and the end point.
Of course. And did you know you'd be coming back for this little appearance in season four?
No, no, that was a pleasant surprise. They called. I was doing Out of Range in New Mexico, and they called and said that they'd written this, this flashback, and obviously I was super excited to get the chance to go back and do it again.
What do you think that added to Ben's overall arc?
I mean, I think in a in a straightforward way, it kind of closed the door on all the talk of is Ben possibly still alive, you know. And I think it, I think it fit in nicely with the overall arc of the show, where they were going in season four, the sort of like obviously the ramifications of Ben having been there and now missing and all that stuff, and how that's being used by different people and affecting different people in different ways. And then I thought just on the character level, it was just a nice reminder or kind of a nice accent piece on that. What a, I don't know, what a kind of sweet soul he was, like trying to wrap his mind around what's happening and realizing he wants to make sure Wendy knows that he forgives her and even forgives Nelson for what he has to do. It was always my favorite part of the character. There was something about him that was so kind of pure and simple. So it was fun to get to play that again.
Yeah, I think he does have really this sort of outsized influence on characters even after he's dead. It starts with Ruth. She obviously has more, angrier things to think about, shortly after that. But Jonah, especially when he asks, his sister, said, "Would you kill me like this?" And that to me was a very poignant moment that shows that this isn't just all fantasy. That there's this real impact to these young people being involved in such a violent world.
Oh my God, yeah, totally, totally. No, I thought that that connection between Jonah and Ben was so special, obviously, and I really loved the way that they let that carry his character into the fourth season. It was really cool.
So, did you get an advanced sense of what was going to happen in season four? Or were you watching along with the rest of us?
No, I was watching along with the rest of everyone else, and before we get there, I just want to say I still haven't finished it.
Oh man! And you're still doing interviews with people, hoping people won't ask you, "What about
And
that crazy thing I'm going to tell you happened at the very end?"
and it still hasn't happened. I literally am like, I mean, when the first section came out, I watched it. I think I binged the whole thing in 2 days, And then when the second one came out, well, before it came out, we get to go to the premiere and see the first two, and then I watched two more, and then I got that feeling like I get with like a really good book, where it was like, ooh, now I don't want to finish, because like once I finish, it's done. you know I'm kind of living in that place with it still. I know I need to get over that, but Yeah, I'm a little scared to finish.
Well, I understand that. I'm watching a few shows now that are, I'm catching up. I'm like, I do one episode per day. I'm not going to do more than one episode of each show per day. I have to space it out a little. But the question I always like to ask, and Netflix is the only streaming service that still does this every single time, is drops all the episodes at once. Do you think that Ozark is the kind of show that should be binged like that, or is it better to spread it out?
Oh no, it's such a great binge. It's such a great binge. I mean, when I first found the show, it was probably a week after the second season was released. So I basically binged the entire first two seasons in 10 days, and I was so hooked. I was such a fan. I was like screaming at the TV, laughing at certain, characters I was cheering for. And like, I just couldn't believe that that tone, that like fine line they were walking with this like ultra violent, high stakes drama, and yet I was constantly laughing out loud. It was like a true dark comedy. Obviously, towards the end of the show, there's less and less comedy, but certainly in the beginning, it was one of the things that really struck me about the show. I was like, "This is amazing. This is such a hard um, it's such a hard tone to get right," and I felt like they did, and I couldn't stop watching. And then obviously excited when I got to be a part of it.
Yeah, I've always been able to resist binging like that, but that's only because I watch so many shows. So I just switch show to show to show, so I don't watch,
Yeah.
all at once. But it is interesting to see, especially that Netflix keeps doing that with all of his series, and I understand that, the appeal with Ozark of that.
Oh man, yeah. Ozark is such a good one to just let it rip.
So yeah, well, I'd love to ask you briefly about the other show that you mentioned that you were working on very recently, which is Outer Range. What has that experience been like?
It was wild. It was cool. It was weird, Like I don't know if you've seen the show, but it was obviously it's such a strange show, and a lot more questions than answers, and so it was a real interesting thing. I personally, Tom, love that. I love things that sort of ask us more than they tell us, and sort of let you live a bit in the mystery or the feeling of something, so that you emotionally kind of understand what's happening, even if intellectually you're not entirely sure. I love um, shows or movies that do that. But to work on one like that was an interesting process, where you're like understanding the tone, and you kind of understand what's happening, but you as an actor, you sort of always want to get like very, or at least I do with certain things, like very literal, just literally understanding exactly what's happening. And there was a lot of times where it was like, I don't know if anyone knows exactly literally what's happening. It was cool, and I was happy to see that I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like for the most part people really dug it. Like people got into it, which I love. Like if there's a show where the experience itself can be something that is satisfying enough that we can leave without needing to have all of our questions answered. I mean, that's so cool.
That's also the kind of show where Ben could still be alive, right? Because there's all this mystery, so you never know.
Oh well, totally. I mean, we could put Ben right in the hole.
You're also part of a show that I find myself very often recommending as something that I think people haven't seen enough, and that's Banshee.
Mm.
And that's especially now people are like, oh, I've seen The Boys. It's great. This Anthony Starr person is interesting. I'm like, well, wait till you see the kind of thing he's doing there. That show, I mean, I'm still haunted by it a lot because I think it was very disturbing. There's all these real moments of violence that, if you really think about them, that there isn't really a redeeming factor. There's not that comedy that you're talking about that Ozark has, but it was still so gripping and so well done. What was it like being on that show?
Oh, what an incredible experience. We had such a blast. Every member of that cast, we were so tight. We had so many cool, good actors, and great people to work with. And that show was so much fun to me because it was like being in a graphic novel. Like it felt like acting in a comic book. You know what I mean? Where kind of like all of these really cool, very weird, specific characters and in their own weird way, kind of all had their own superpower without literally having a superpower. And then like getting to play them out in these sort of larger than life circumstances and all of the different fights, all the different fight scenes, it was almost like, I don't know, it reminded me of a comic book, and it was so much fun, you know. I mean, I put on a ton of weight. I was lifting weights like until I felt like I could run through a brick wall. And half of that job you would just spend it in the stunt room, you know, because we'd have these huge fight sequences. You know, it was kind of one of the things the show is really famous for. We had an amazing stunt team. It was just a blast. You know, that was just a blast. It was like one of those jobs where every day you go to work, it's like, man, this is amazing that we're getting paid to do this.
That's great to hear. Again, that's when I really try to get people into, because I think it's there isn't really anything like it, I don't think.
I know, and it was weird, man. It was like right at the end of Cinemax, you know, so it wasn't HBO, even though it was under the kind of umbrella of that. And then, you know, I feel like it got a little bit of a resurgence or like a second life when they put it on HBO Max. But I've always thought that there's a version of reality where that show is maybe on a different network or maybe just gets seen differently, where more people get to see it. Because the friends that I have who did see it, a lot of them it's their favorite show.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I know that you also have some very cool upcoming projects. I'm not sure what you can talk about, but I know that when we look you up on IMDb, a lot of She Said stuff just pops right up. So is there anything you can preview about what's coming up?
Yeah, well, I'm in She Said, and that was an awesome experience. I got to work a lot with Carrie, and she's an amazing actor. And yeah, I mean, obviously, that's a movie about the reporters who broke the Harvey Weinstein story from the New York Times, and really, you know, interesting examination of what was going on and when. And I think it's probably a movie that a lot of people are going to want to see. It was yeah, it meant a lot to be a part of it.
That's great. And do you have some TV stuff coming? Can you talk about that at all or no?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when they're gonna release it, but I think it's in the ether that we filmed a show called Love and Death, that David E. Kelly wrote, and super excited about that. I think, I mean, I know that was a blast. Another show with a super cool, very interesting tone. I haven't seen any of it, but it jumped off the page. I literally couldn't put the scripts down, and I think that's one that people are going to enjoy a lot. And I've heard from some people that it turned out okay. So hopefully.
Great. And of course, the impetus for this conversation is your Emmy nomination. And so I have to ask, do you watch Succession and Euphoria?
I've seen Succession. I only saw, I think, like the first season of Euphoria, so I didn't get to see Coleman's work in the show. Although I'm a big fan of him as an actor and as a human being, such a nice guy. But yeah, it's sort of Coleman and I versus the cast of Succession, huh?
It's good company to be in, I think, and that's a show you can't binge, unless you're waiting till the end. So
Yeah, no, it's a great show. I mean, I think everybody watches that show. I love it. All of those actors are, you know, they're so talented. It's really cool. It was a surprise to me, you know, like I wasn't sitting there waiting for that or expecting it, or nobody had told me that I should think it was coming. It truly caught me off guard. It was a really awesome surprise.
well, congratulations again. Very well deserved, especially for season 3. And it's nice to be able to talk and think about Ben again, and to have the chance to talk with you today.
Yeah, no, it was great talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.